Hello, 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 everyone. Thank All right. It's such a wonderful day, and I am so glad and so thankful to God because He's blessed me to be here one more time. And it's a great, great pleasure to be here. Thank you for being with me. To everybody, Merethah said that she really wants to be on today, but of course, she's working. Eula is very busy today. And Clee had an appointment today, but if she gets back in time, she will try her best to get on with me. But today is such a wonderful day. We're talking about crabs in a bucket, soar like an eagle, indentured mentality. And so there's so much that we're going to talk about today, and I will let you draw the conclusion on how you want to deal with all this that I'm presenting today. It's for thought and it's for us, and see if you can recognize any of these things that have come across in your life. See if you can recognize these things, and I surely will be glad to hear from you today. It's a wonderful, wonderful day, and I am so thankful. Dear God, as I sit before you to speak, I pray to you that my soul you will keep. And if I should die before I finish, I pray to you, dear God, in the name of Jesus, that any outstanding sins will be forgiven. Amen. Amen. I want to adjust this camera just a little bit because it looks like I'm looking up, which I am, but I always want to have that headroom in there. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and go into what we're going to talk about today, and it is something else. So, what I want to do is start out with the indentured mentality and talk some about that. Indenture, what does indenture mean? That means bind someone by an indenture as an apprentice or laborer. Indenture definition: bound by contract, unfree, hampered and not free, not able to act at will. Indentured, that's what that means. What is indentured servitude? Many of us have heard this. What is indentured servitude? Indentured servitude is a form of labor in which a person is contracted to work without salary for a specific number of years. The contract, called an indenture, may be entered voluntarily for, for purported eventual compensation or debt repayment, or it may be imposed involuntarily as a judicial punishment. So we'll go on, and historically it has been used to pay for apprenticeship. And there's an example here. So I want to see if this is going to go on just a little longer. But indenture is having to, they say, repay a debt without a salary, not having your freedom, not being able to do it at will, but being forced to do it by contract. Okay. And it could be a verbal contract or it could be a non-verbal contract. So an indenture is a legal contract between two parties, particularly for indentured labor or a term of apprenticeship, but also for certain land transactions. Oh my goodness, it's so much in here. So I'm going to go ahead and go, that's indentured, okay? Now, what is the slave mentality? So I want to go to psychological slavery. Okay, no, I'm going to go slave mentality. We've heard that. The slave mentality. Oh my goodness. What is slave mentality? And this is pull your own strings. Pull your own strings. And this is in being, okay? What is slave? But then I'm going to go to psychological slavery, which is in psychology today. These are some things because we think about things sometimes and we wonder why certain things go a certain way. And so, anyway, we're just going to go on with this, okay? What is slave mentality? Pull your own strings. What is slave mentality? Slave mentality is a mindset or way of thinking which comes from being a slave. But slavery wasn't abolished. But slavery was, this is a thought, okay? But slavery was abolished years ago. Slavery was abolished in the 1800s, but only in the law books. Crime is also punishable by law, but that doesn't stop people from doing it. Do you really believe that the slave masters would abandon such a lucrative, manipulative, and controlling system? Slavery adapted, evolved, and is now well camouflaged. Do you hear this? And this is pullyourownstrings.com. But I've never been a slave. This is a quote here. I've never been a slave. And some people say, like we can say, we've never been a slave. We've never been in slavery. Okay, let's see. Unfortunately, 98% of human beings are slaves. Do you get that? This is pull your own strings.com. That's OWN strings.com. And this is a good article. We see it's getting deep here, okay? This is, oh, we can say, oh, but I've never been a slave. Unfortunately, according to pullyourownstrings.com, 98% of human beings are slaves. You've been bound with invisible chains with the same consequences. Wow. A slave mentality conditions you to accept harmful circumstances as normal. Mm, mm, mm. You believe whatever your master tells you, whether it's true or not. You view your worth through your master's eyes. Your shackles and chains have been traded for smaller bracelets, bangles, and jewelry. Your overseers have guns and batons, which replaced the bullwhips and the noose. Branding irons have been replaced with tattoo pens. Pain and punishment await those who choose to disobey their master or refuse to work. This is getting serious right here, isn't it? Seriously, though, it's not your fault. And we have to look at this. It's not our fault. We're talking about the slave mentality. Slave mentality. That's the way the system works. You were born into slavery, although your parents believe they are free. Your grandparents trained your parents, who trained you. You'll train your children, who'll train their children. It's a self perpetuating cycle of indoctrination. Definition of slave mentality. Think about it. Think about it. Words are foundational in all forms of slavery, and to break free from their chains is vital that you understand words, their meanings, and the subtle changes to the meanings. And that is so true. Some people like to play with words. Some people like to play with words. They'll use different words on you and everything. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I know some people who like to play with words, saying a certain thing but meaning something totally different. Okay? Slave. What is a slave? A person who is the property of. and wholly, WHOLLY, subject to another, a bond servant, BOND servant. And next is a person. This is a noun, okay? A person entirely under the domination of some influence or person, okay? A slave to a drug. Okay, now here we go. Here we go. Mentality. What is mentality? The set of one's mind, view, outlook. A slave is born a slave or forced to become a slave involuntarily or voluntarily. Expected to work without complaint. Be thankful you have a job. Oh, wow. Listen to that. Has no rights or recourse to judgment. Guilty as charged. Market crashes. Inflation. Wow. Punished for failing to work to a set standard. That means warnings, disciplinary hearings, dismissal. Next, poverty stricken and illiterate, in debt, uneducated, or system educated. You hear that? System educated. Oh, wow. Now, see, that's making me want to dig a little deeper. System educated. Let me do this. Oh, my goodness. System educated. Oh, Lord. I'm trying to just get down here. Okay. System educated. There's so much to this. I might not be able to pinpoint what I really want to say. Wow. Does America have a good educational system? Wow. Well, you know what? There's so much of that I'm not going to go into it. So let me just get back, okay? Let me just get back here. I wanted to do that. My goodness. System educated. Okay. Mentality, the set of one's mind, a view, and outlook. And then there's that poverty stricken, illiterate, in debt, uneducated, or system educated. The next one is their words mean nothing. They speak like slaves. Ruled by others. That means bankers, bosses, partners, peers, family. Talking about slave mentality. And this is one note here said, I have found that to make a contented slave, it is necessary to make a thoughtless one. This is from a narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. It is necessary to darken his moral and mental vision, and as far as possible, to annihilate his power of reason. He must be able to detect no inconsistencies in slavery. He must be made to feel that slavery is right. My goodness, does any of that sound familiar? Remember, we went all back up here talking about born to be a slave, forced to become a slave involuntarily or voluntarily. Then uh, they expect you to work without complaint, even on the job. So people get in trouble for complaining about the conditions of the job, complaining about the pay, or different things that are not might not be going right. And then there you have no rights or recourse in justice. Sometimes you just have no rights, you have no recourse in certain things, in certain situations. Guilt is charged, the market crashes, then we have inflation. We don't have any say so in that. Then punished for failing to work to a set standard. That we have warnings, we have disciplinary hearings and dismissals, and poverty stricken and illiterate, in debt, undereducated or system educated. And so they put under uneducated or system educated, they put those in the same sentence. Okay. Their words mean nothing. They speak like slaves. Ruled by others, they ruled by the bankers, the bosses, the partners, the peers, the family. So So they said this right here said the thing is to render, make it necessary that a person is thoughtless, darken their moral and mental vision as far as possible, and annihilate this power of reason. Just keep him or her from thinking for themselves, make them think that everything is all right. And I'm going to get into something here that's just something else. I didn't go into the Stockholm syndrome, but this is just about as bad. So where does slave mentality come from? Slavery was practiced by all nations, but in particular by the conquerors. The Romans and Greeks had plenty of slaves, and the Vikings were well known for slaving. Very few, you remember we talked about Eric the Red? He was a Viking. Okay, very few nations didn't practice or benefit from it. Very few nations did not practice it or benefit from it. Some of the great civilizations of the world, like Egypt, Rome, and Greece, were built on the sweat of slaves. It's part of the dark side of human nature, the need to control others. People crave control, and the ultimate form of control is enslavement. Are you getting? People were never made to be controlled because they're masters at heart. People were never made to be controlled because they are masters at heart. The continent of Africa was heavily slaved, with East and West Africa suffering the most. Huge numbers of slaves were taken from Africa to the Americas and the West. History focused on the Americas because of their Civil War, but Brazil and the West Indies had plenty of African slaves. Now, to qualify as a slave, you needed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with certain characteristics, such as being young, strong, and healthy. Young, strong, and healthy. Slavery caused great suffering, pain, and misery, but the most insidious trait was a slave mentality, which still flourishes in the minds of people and cultures. And if you just listen sometimes, just observe, you will know slave mentality. Slaves that arrived on the plantations had to be trained to follow the master's orders and ideally enforce those rules on the rest. Now, this is why a worthy slave was appointed as a slave driver, the highest status position on the plantation. His job was to ensure maximum productivity. And we've seen movies where we've seen these slave drivers, how hard they are on their own people. Slave drivers. So the result of a slave mentality was that you accepted your lot, lived with your circumstances, and worked hard. You were trained from childhood to accept your position in life and that the system was unbeatable. Those who escaped or rebelled were met with harsh punishment or death. We were trained, listen to this, you were trained from childhood to accept your position in life and that the system was unbeatable. And you've heard this cliche, well, that's life. That's the way it is. But hey, I believe things can be changed. I really do if we work at them. So this way of thinking infected the next generation to believe that this was the only way of life. See, there it goes from generation to generation to generation to generation. So the overseas, The overseers put a lot of effort into ensuring their slaves were infected with slave mentality as they would then work hard, were docile, and caused no problems. The master's job was to keep you under control, ensure that you bred new stock and were self sustaining. The methodology was extremely effective, as can be seen in the writings of the slaves that escaped or lived after they were set free. So this methodology, it was extremely effective. Even today, the majority of articles on the net about being slave minded refer to specific cultures, nationalities, and continents. So, do you believe that all your habits, your behaviors, and decisions are your own? Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Most of them are not, according to this pullyourownstrings.com. They were taught, learned, and programmed into your subconscious. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. How else could they get there? No words control how, excuse me. Oh, wow. This is something. Hi, thank you so much for being with me. I appreciate you being here. I wanted to go this way today. This just came on my mind this morning. These things you think, and I just asked God, give me what to talk about. And so this evidently is what He wants me to talk about. How words control your mind is the next. Slaves were captured, they were shackled, and sold to the highest bidder. They were separated from their families and countries to work for new masters. That had to be awful. It had to be awful. Oh my goodness. They lost their identity, they lost their culture, they lost their language with new ideologies forced upon them. They either adapted or died. They either adapted or died. Now, think about the word slave. Close your eyes. What images come to mind? Did the word slave create an image of a manacled person? Well, maniacal, no, it's not maniacal. Manacled person in rags, sold, working, or being punished? Did you see the gender, the age, or nationality of that person? When you closed your eyes, and what images came to your mind? What did you see when you thought about a slave? The word slave. Now, think about the word slavery and then modern day slavery. What images do you see? Did you notice any differences? Think about the word slavery and then think about modern day slavery. So, what images do you see? Do you notice anything different? What images did slavery evoke? Did you see dirty, skinny children working under harsh conditions or women forced to work in the sex trade when you thought of modern day slavery? These images define the slave trade as it happened decades ago, committed by certain nations. Did you see yourself as a slave in any of those images? Interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. Like that man laugh and say, very interesting. Yes. Hi, thank you for being with me. You didn't see yourself in any of those images because you think you're free. You think you're free. The opening paragraph primed your mind to see the images from what you read or were taught, okay, or what you read or what you were taught, or even read of what you were taught. And the image at the top of the page helps subconsciously focus on the stereotype. Now, if the word slave is mentioned, these images come to mind, which help camouflage the modern day concept of slave mentality. Most internet searches point to articles about physical slavery and the history of African slaves, which enhance the imagery. Wow. Here's another piece that I didn't think I was, oh, wow. What is present day slave mentality and how can you escape it? Oh, but here's something else. Are you infected with slave mentality? What is present day slave mentality? So let me go into this. What is present day slave mentality? And how can you escape it? This is very important. People don't, some people say, oh no, oh no, oh no. Think about it. We have to think about it. We see it in action almost every single day. Yes, we do. So, what is the present day slave mentality? The final in the three-part series, or the three-part series, an internet search about how to stop being a slave will result in thousands of hits from email, technology, social media, food, wages, to mention a few, or food and wages, to mention a few. The definition of a slave is a person entirely under the domination of some influence or person, which applies to the physical, psychological, and spiritual spheres of life. But the mindset that the post focuses on, but it's the mindset that the post focuses on. Consider the requirements for a driver's license in my country. Listen to this. Okay, this person, let me, well, I'll give the name of the author here, but this is pullyourownstrings.com. Your vehicle must be roadworthy, licensed, and insured before you can use it on a public road. The permit is issued according to numerous rules and regulations which change yearly. You must have a driver's license to prove that you are fit to drive, which is renewable every 5 years. Before you can apply for your driver's license, you must be able to read and write. An identity document is required to prove who you are. You must be medically fit, write a theoretical driver's license exam, and pass a practical driver's test. Finally, when you have met all the requirements and produced all the documents, you will pay for the services rendered. Oh, yes, you will. If you want that driver's license, you'll pay for the services rendered. Now, remember, it's a public road that your taxes paid for. The officials, either directly or indirectly, work for the government who is funded by your taxes. They are public servants. Note the word servant, but they act like your master, and that is so true. So, where is your freedom? Surely you should be able to drive on a public road without all of these permits and licenses. Yes, but that is done for your safety. Okay, that's what someone would say, and that's exactly what I'm thinking. You know, these requirements, you have to have these things for my safety as well as the person, other persons. Okay, now this is saying, really? What about those who don't know how to drive or have no licenses? And those people who bought their permits and licenses. Yet, with all the controls People are still involved in accidents and fatalities, for real. Still involved in accidents and fatalities, even though we've all the rules and regulations, we followed those, we paid the fees and all of that. Do you accept all the red tape because you're comfortable with the status quo? Do you? You don't want to rock the boat. You'll pay your dues and accept whatever the authorities tell you as long as you can continue to believe you're free. Your first 15 years of social engineering have borne fruit. Okay. Now, the benefits of a slave mentality. Could there be benefits? You're an accepted card carrying member of the herd. Next, you gave up your freedom for harmony, ease, and security. Next, your prison is small but comfortable, proudly self decorated. You believe the government has your best interest at heart and will take care of you. You give 50% of your hard earned salary to them for infrastructure, services, and protection. Oh, yeah, it's getting real, isn't it? If you follow their rules, you're free to do as you please. If you follow their rules, you're free to do as you please. You get that? Someone will come and save you. My goodness. So, what is the antidote? The antidote. What is the antidote? Hi, I like this today. The antidote. One of the worst feelings in the game of life is finding out that you have been conned. Have you ever been conned? I remember one time, I haven't ever talked about this. Ella Davis and I were conned. We were conned. I think it was out of $250, $500. And my sister Natalie, she felt that it was a con. And she even talked to the person on the phone and said, I know whatever she told that person. And then after we did what we did and we got that little piece of paper, what is it? Suppose, you know, how you give so much money for this and then you'll get something in return. Yeah, we got conned. And so, but Natalie talked to that person and he skedaddled. We never saw him again, but he still had our money. He still sent that fake thing to us talking about we have a certain amount of money, which was totally fake. Okay, so we did get conned. So have you ever been conned? Okay, that crunch deep inside as you hear that the dream you're chasing is a fantasy. That's the feeling when you realize that the game has been rigged, the players are cheating, and there's zero chance of winning. A casino will give you better odds. My goodness. Your anger towards the cheaters is nothing compared to the anger you have for yourself because you were duped. Worst of all, you knew there was something wrong. You knew something was off, but you chose to ignore your instincts. Yeah, because Natalie told us, she said, oh, be careful, be careful. And she talked to that person and let him know what the thing was. And then he never showed up again. And when we first saw him, he had a bandage on his leg, and I think he'd been shot. And then I thought about it later on. I said, somebody probably shot him for doing what he did to us. You know, before he had done it to somebody else, and I wouldn't put it past somebody shooting him for being a con artist. Okay, but yeah, we got conned and we learned our lesson. All right. Now, here you have two choices. You can spin the wheel again and hope that you'll win, or stop playing, or stop playing, or stop playing. The easy way out is the next subtopic here. If this post made you defensive, confused, or angry, then it's a step towards self ownership. If there wasn't a grain of truth in the post, then you would have no emotional reaction. The easy way out is to forget what you've read and be promoted to the class of true slave. And then this is for the quitters. Are you 100% sure you want to quit the game? Be warned, getting out is easy, staying out is hard. Getting out is easy, staying out is hard. Now, why? 98% of the people you associate with, from family, friends, and colleagues, are still playing the game and believe they will win. 98% of people we know are still playing the game and believe they will win. And I understand what this person is saying. You'll question everything you know as the foundations that you've built your life upon are all suspect. And I even think about it, like the companies. And here I go. Yes, we're grateful to have a job if we're working, and then when we were working, now we have our pensions, our retirement, and thank God for all of that. But there's only a certain amount of money that you are allotted or allowed to make when you work for these companies and work for these firms, unless you have your own business. There's a cutoff at how much you're allowed to work. And then we hear almost every day of the billions and billions of dollars in profit that the companies make. And yet people are striking and talking about we don't have enough pay. We can't take care of our families. We can't do what we need to do. We're just barely getting by. But yet we hear of the companies making millions and billions of dollars in profits every year, but they only pay us a certain amount of money because they want to keep that cap there where you cannot rise above where they want you to go unless you put forth that effort and you step back and take ownership of yourself. Now, you'll question everything you know as the foundation you built your life upon are all suspect. Conspiracy theorists, you'll be labeled as one, and the deeper you go, the more you'll be judged and ostracized. Going against the flow or leaving the herd is never easy. The more you research, the worse it gets as the threads are interwoven into every piece of your life's fabric, to the extent that you'll think your life is a fabrication. We're talking about this slave mentality. That's what we're talking about. But take heart. The 1% that is awake have survived, and so can you. You can survive. All of us can survive. Oh, yes, we can. I don't know what this is doing. Take heart. The 1% that is awake have survived, and so can you. And if you notice in life, in this society, if people feel like you are making more money than you should, or you're living better than you should, you seem to be more prosperous than they want you to be or they expect you to be, then they start conjuring up thoughts and spreading things and saying that you must be doing something wrong. You must be doing something illegal to be able to afford this and afford that and afford this and afford that. Conjure up stuff because people have this mindset and this slave mentality that you're supposed to be at a certain level and not go any higher. Okay? So, by the way, if you decide to go back to the safety of the herd, you'll never be the same. You'll sleep with one eye open because the herd will smell the renegade on you. That is the truth. Now, do you still want the antidote? Do you still want to break free of that? Okay, the antidote. Here it is. Number one, be quiet, say nothing. Now, you think about this. If someone told you any of this 6 months ago, what would your thoughts have been? How would you have reacted? Exactly. Okay? Hey, we don't know. You wouldn't you would have shot them down in flames, called them all sorts of names, and labeled them as, and there's ellipses and then there's a question mark. So don't share this with your anyone else. Okay? They are like-minded, unless they're like-minded. If you have to put out some feelers and ask them for opinions about something that you've learned. Listen to their answers and give a vague reply if they ask why. Number two, gather as much knowledge as you can handle. Gather as much knowledge as you can handle. You'll be overwhelmed by your research, and I mean that's almost every day with me. There's so much research. Somebody searched it and researched, and we research what somebody else has searched by reading what they have put out here for us. And then we can even go further than that, or further, and then go into other areas of the same subject and find out and see if they're familiar with each other.
Someone was detected at your front door.
Okay, that must be my groceries. Okay, gather as much knowledge as you can handle. You'll be overwhelmed by your research. It's difficult to understand and absorb. The developers include this for those who quit playing according to their rules. Their prime tactic is to divide and conquer. And we know that. I'm going to be back, but I know I better not leave these groceries. So let me just check the door. Okay, please uh, let me. Is my thing still on? My camera went off, didn't it? So can you hear me? Let me check this camera. The camera has disconnected. So am I still? Can you still hear me? The camera has okay, you can, as long as you can hear me. So that's fine and dandy. Can you still hear me? So I will be right back. So please give me 2 minutes. Well, not 2 minutes. Okay, I am back. I am back. So this camera has gone off, but just hang in here with me, please. Thank you so much. Uh, I don't know. As long as you can hear me, I'm thankful for that. So I'm going to go back to what I was talking about. Okay, the slave mentality, present day. Okay, now, number two, gather as much knowledge as you can handle. Gather as much knowledge as you can handle. You'll be overwhelmed by your research. It's difficult to understand and absorb. The developers included this for those who quit playing according to their rules. Their prime tactic is to divide and conquer. The prime tactic is to divide and conquer. Let me try something here. What I'm going to do is, no, I'm just going to, I don't want to mess it up here. So I want to try and get this camera back on. Try to get this camera back on. Let me see. Camera. Okay. Okay. It's still trying to act up. But, okay. Hopefully, okay. It did come back on. All right. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Well, it came back on and then it went back off. Well, that's okay. I'm going on. Hi, thank you so much for being with me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm talking about this slave mentality, present day slave mentality. Number two, gather as much knowledge as you can handle. So, to try to get away from this slave mentality, to get away from it, not just try, but be successful. Because the way people want to keep you into it is to divide and conquer society as a main thing, want to keep you in that state of mind. So let two opposite views be expressed and watch the arguments fly thick and fast. And read the comments on your favorite social media source. Talk about a civil war of words. Now, what about mainstream media? Compare different channels, viewpoints on any topic. Fake news, disinformation, false news, propaganda. When they're caught out, they're proud of it. The roots of journalism have been chopped off and fake fruits abound. The scourge of fake news, disinformation, and manipulation has created fact resistant humans. There are people, and then we know that in the Bible, and then we say that's the only infallible word of God, infallible word of God. We believe it. And in the Bible, it tells us that in the latter days, in the last days, people will believe a lie before they believe the truth. And those days are here. People will think right is wrong and wrong is right. Those days are here. And if people don't believe in the Bible, they still cannot deny the fact that these things are happening today. So your main argument is that this is so big, what could I ever do? Because it's a big thing, the slave mentality and keeping people's minds enslaved and thinking what they want them to think in order to manipulate and do as they want to do with the people in their minds and keep things under control. Okay? Number three, look at your circumstances and what you can change. Look at your circumstances and what you can change, things that you control, such as what you eat. Highly processed food, along with junk food, enslave many. Okay? Highly stimulating food is addictive and decreases your physical and mental health. Then the next, physical and mental fitness. What you eat is one of the things that we can control. We can control that now, if we will. Physical and mental fitness. The benefits are improved stamina, mental attitude, and immunity. Then the next one is learn to be a critical thinker. You remember the other day I told you I'm a critical thinker. This filters out the counterfeits. Be a critical thinker. Think about it, weigh it out, and get the right answer, the right opinion, the right thinking about whatever you're thinking about. Your information source. Unplug yourself from your TV, mainstream, and social media. Sometimes they can be detrimental, okay? Learn a skill, something that you'll that'll allow you to be independent again. And the next one, claim self-ownership. Take and accept responsibility for your life. Don't we talk about that? Take and accept responsibility for your life. We talk about that. Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. You instinctively know all the above things, but you've not followed through. Why? Because the system is designed to keep you dependent on its products, its services, and its solutions. Such a short list. Don't let your system belief in complicated steps fool you. The steps seem very simple, which in itself weeds out the majority of quitters. Try and be quiet for an hour, then try a morning of silence. Keeping your mouth shut is easy compared to keeping the voice in your head quiet. Wow. Try to be quiet for an hour, then try a morning of silence, morning. And then it tells us keeping our mouth shut is easy compared to keeping the voice in your head quiet. And that is so true. And then the next thing is take it slowly. Take it slowly as you're undoing decades of training. Yes, because we have to reset everything, our mindset. Step away for a while if you're overwhelmed. And then it tells us once the camouflage has been removed, it's easier to see the threads and how they're woven into your fabric of life. Now we're going to sum this up. Hi, thank you so much for being with me. My camera has gone out and I don't want to uh, press the issue and mess up my voice, but I know that you can still hear me. You can still hear me, and I'm thankful for that because you can still hear me, I believe. Okay, what happened to my sound? What happened to my sound? All right. Okay. Thank you for being with me. Crabs in a bucket, soar like an eagle. I'm going to have to uh, do a second part to this, but I do hope you can that you can hear me. I hope so. As I try to finish up this part of it. Maybe not. What have I done? Okay, testing. The microphone is still on, so I hope you can hear me. If you can, please let me know. I'm not watching. I'm trying to watch Facebook. Oh, there it is. Yes, it's still there. Thank you. I am so bent on getting this right. So now let me go and finish this. There's so much here that I want to talk about, but it looks like this present day slavery is something else. But we're summing it up now. Slavery was abolished, but the insidious ingredient of a slave mentality remained and thrives today. It affects anyone and isn't limited to gender, it isn't limited to race, it isn't limited to culture or creed. All right?
So these posts are an interview, a piece of the puzzle, a starting point, allowing you to see through some of the camouflage. They don't cover all the topics in detail. However, you're encouraged to dig deeper, research, and build your own understanding. And so the links give you more information to allow you to choose your next steps. It has always and it will always be your choice. Remember, we've always had a choice. We've just been plagued with this uh, mentality. It is alive and well today. It definitely is. We've seen it. We see it almost every day. If whenever we're around a group of people, we see it. We might not have known what to call it, but we know now what it is. It's that slave mentality. It's a modern day slave mentality. So the present day, and there were two more things here. Oh, let me see. The writer here, present day slave mentality. I'm trying to see if I can get to the writer here. I don't see the writer's name, but just go to pullyourownstrings.com. So if you do not know you are a slave, you cannot be free. That's right. And we talk about this. You have to acknowledge the fact that you are in order to be able to deal with it. Okay. So if you don't acknowledge, you cannot free yourself from it. The best slave is the one who thinks he is free. The best slave is the one who thinks he is free. And so, God willing, on Thursday, I will talk about psychological slavery. And then I'm going into soaring like an eagle. I'm going to also talk about this crabs in a bucket mentality. Crabs in a bucket mentality. See, I had all this to work today. We ended up with this slave mentality, this indentured mentality. So we have to realize what these things are and then go into them deeper. I really appreciate you for being with me. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I love you so much, and I pray and trust that you will have a wonderful weekend. And God willing, I will be on at 7:39 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday morning at 7 a.m. I love you so much. I really appreciate it. And this this weekend, this weekend, um, the New Birth Church here in Dallas. I'm going to get the information here. I told Apostle George, Ethel George, and I asked her, she asked me to spread the news, and I asked if I could announce it here. But they're selling fish plates, and they are $12 each, 12.50 each, and that's Saturday. I'm getting to it now. I want to get there. And today is my favorite granddaughter. Is she my only granddaughter? Ashley's. It's Ashley's birthday today. It's Ashley's birthday today. Okay, here it is. Happy birthday, Ashley. Granny loves you, sweetie pie. All right. Now, this is ooh, wait, this is such a menu. Oh, it's 2 o'clock. Okay. It would be at 1131 East Montana Avenue here in Oak Cliff at 75216. 216. As New Birth in Christ Church. And the 1250 fish plates, 1250 donation for the plate. You can get two pieces of fish, you get a tossed salad, you get potato salad, you get bread, you get baked beans, and then they have pie for a separate price, banana pudding for a separate price. They have cake for a separate price. Okay, and so the number is 972-966-9980. And this is Saturday the 22nd And it will be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I love you so much. Enjoy the remainder of your day. Thank you for being with me. And then don't forget that I'll be able to announce that I think the anniversary for coming up. Okay.